I guess sometimes the best way to deal with a sibling is to lock her in a cellar. Here's a look at the brand new NECA, The Evil Dead Ultimate Ash and Cheryl action figures. Five friends drive to a remote cabin in the woods for a fun getaway. While there, they find the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, an ancient tome whose text reawakens the dead when read aloud. After unintentionally releasing a flood of evil, the group must fight for their lives or become possessed. When it came to Cheryl's faith, she had to go on a limb. Yeah. Before, though, we get a closer look at the Evil Dead Ultimate Ash and Cheryl, let's take the tape measure and see how tall the figures stand. While it does look like Ash is maybe using some of the body elements from earlier released Ashes, I think Cheryl's body is brand new. Although, while I'm looking at her blouse, the first thing that came to my mind, if they ever get the Halloween 78 license, that would be a perfect top torso for Halloween Annie. Anyways, though, as promised, let's go ahead and take the tape measure. We're going to start things first with Ash. He's going to stand at 6 3/4 of an inch in height. That works out, though, to be a figure that's about 16.5 centimeters tall. Then to Cheryl, who's slightly shorter and a whole lot more evil. She's actually just a hair taller than 6 inches in height, or about 15.5 centimeters tall. Yeah, I am convinced that they're actually using the same body as the original Evil Dead Ultimate Ash. Similar top torso, similar lower legs. Also bringing a couple of other examples of Ash. Here's what the figure looks like with the Dead by Dawn. This was the 2-pack that came included with Deadite Ed. And here's also what the figure looks like with the 2022 reissue Ash, or as I've coined, Side-Eyed Ash. That was a great figure if you ever had the chance to pick that. Pick up, though, the 2022 reissue, as it does have very much featured the side-eyed look. Also, this isn't the first time, though, we've gotten ourselves a Deadite. As mentioned already, we did get ourselves the Dead by Dawn 2-pack that happened to include Deadite Ed. Scary stuff comes included with both the figures. First thing that we'll have a look at is the makeshift cross that we see in the film. While in the film is made of 2 individual logs that have been tied together. This time around, though, NECA has very faithfully crafted this all in plastic. I will say, though, that the actual cross does look like it kind of leans a little to the side. I would have to go back and watch the film again to see if that is movie accurate or not. But it's a nice looking cross that we see in the film. While we're certainly also sticking with Ash, the figure, of course, comes included with his chainsaw. Not yet, though, attached to the end of his forearm. The chainsaw has been done here all in red. Of course, we got a little bit of blood there on top of the handle. A good generous amount of that all across the teeth of it as well. This can be held in the figure's hands. One thing I do actually like about the figures in this release is that they're using generally soft plastic. So getting things like the chainsaw, for example, into the hands of either Ash, I guess you probably wouldn't be putting into Cheryl's hands. Putting it, though, into Ash's hands is not a hard thing to do at all. In fact, the proof is in the pudding. Just grabbing the figure, you can see like the plastic is soft enough, at least. It's not super rubbery, mind you, but it's soft at least enough that you can easily get the handle of the chainsaw wielded in his hand. Now, I don't know if I will likely display this, though, with Ash, considering, though, really, I mean, he's got quite a lot of blood all over his body. That's not cranberry sauce, by the way. Maybe I might just end up displaying him with the chainsaw. I mean, again, like, we've gotten enough releases of Ash in the past that have all come included with chainsaws. Is it kind of a little bit more overkill? Overkill, I say, as I'm describing Evil Dead, to have this figure now displayed on the shelf with the same. He also does come included with a shovel. The shovel isn't, though, as generously soaked in blood as perhaps the chainsaw, but there's still a fair bit of it on the end of it. I like the way that they've added a little bit lighter silver added it, so it's not just the darker black or the darker gunmetal gray. The actual handle itself doesn't have any blood on it, but there's a nice little bit of red that they've added to the side. And like the head of the shovel, you can see there's a little bit of wear away, like the paints come off over time. I think that's a really nice little attention to detail. Attention to detail as well, the figure does come included with a fire poker. The fire poker, though, of the accessories is a little bit more pliable. Probably don't be doing this, though, just with the risk that this could potentially break. And last things first, but obviously last thing before we kind of get down to the heads and the interchangeable head sculpts, he does also come included with his axe. Now, again, redundant to say, like, there's so much blood on all these accessories. That's going to be one trend that you're going to be finding quite common, not only just with the accessories, but also with Ash and Cheryl as well. Again, any one of these can be wielded in Ash's hands. Speaking of hands, though, by the way, the figure does also come included with a couple of other swappable hands. One hand actually looks a little bit better suited for holding a shotgun, yet the figure doesn't come included with one. I would imagine, though, this probably would be the better hand to hold the chainsaw because, of course, it does have the finger that's going to fit nicely around the trigger. Of course, it does also come included with this hand also as well. Quite a lot of blood. You know, again, an understatement all over the hand here of Ash. It's actually, funny enough, only on the top of the hand. Finds no appearance actually on the palm itself. The hands themselves can be easily swapped out. Just to show you guys what that works and how that works, just go ahead and just take the hand and wiggle it off. As you can see, there's the post, and then just take the hand that you want to then use, plug it back in place. Now, I guess while we're using maybe perhaps this hand, we'll go ahead and take the chainsaw, get that wedged back in there. There we go. Yep, you can see there's the finger right there, very safely hovering around the trigger. If I was being surrounded by deadites, siblings or otherwise, my finger would be always hovering around the trigger of any chainsaw. Anyways, while the figure, you know what, let's just take that out of his hand. I just don't want to make him any bit side heavy. One thing that also Ash does come included with, though, is an alternate head sculpt. Now, the head, as you can see, technically it did come out of the packaging with this one, but I did kind of want to change things up with. Actually kind of starting with a cleaner looking face that is also sporting a side eye. I like the side eyes. I don't want to have side eyes on every figure, but every once in a while, especially on an Ash, I think it really works well. Technically, though, this was the head that came out of the packaging with him. Again, I just swapped this out. Kind of disappointing, though, that they're actually using... I'll show you guys in a second. So you got the cleaner face with the side eye. Oh, he knows. He knows something's going on. And then there's also this one where he's looking straight at you. The hair has now been soaked. There's blood all over his face. Likeness, I think it's pretty good. I mean, this, granted, is Evil Dead Ash, not Evil Dead 2 Ash, where he gets, of course, the chainsaw on the end of his forearm. Swapping out the heads is just a simple case of popping the head off that you have and replace it with the head that you didn't have yet. Unfortunately, though, as I already mentioned, the one thing, unfortunately, that they've done is they've given these guys ball joints right at the top. Right there. Right there. Instead of actually having the post system, and why I say that, I'm going to get this head back where it belonged, right on the top of the ball joint here. Just get this figure to stand here for a second. Shall we perhaps reach off to the side? I already had this planned anyways. Here's the other side-eyed Ash anyways from Evil Dead 2, and this was the 2022 reissue. The previous issues, by the way, actually had the figure with his eye looking forward. For some reason or not, they opted to go with the 2022 reissue as the reissue to give Ash that trademark side eye. Why I bring this figure in, and obviously this is a little bit older of a figure, is if you went to change the head, because you were thinking to yourself, hey, wait a minute, now I've got alternate head sculpts, I could use one with the other. Technically, you can't, because if you try to remove the post from this one, actually try to remove the head, you'll find underneath, though, is just the regular stem post. It doesn't have the ball joint, so the head isn't going to work. I wish that they had used the same system. I know, granted, yeah, these are older figures. The original Ultimate Evil Dead Ash does actually have the exact same post system, so if you were to change out the head on this guy, it's the exact same ball joint. Had they, though, thought long-term, they could have then used the same post that you could then mix and match the head sculpts with Ash with every other figure that they've released. I mean, maybe that's too high of an expectation. I mean, obviously, newer figures have to have newer mechanisms and newer ways that they create them. Maybe, moving forward, it was just a lot easier for them to use ball joints because ball joints ensures maybe better posability. I don't really know. But anyways, though, looking at the two bodies, torsos seem to be the same shirts, same tucked-in shirt. Same legs as well. The only thing that's different, though, is that this Ash didn't have yet the rip in his leg, whereas now this Ash has it, and you can see he's trickling blood. No, not cranberry sauce. All over down his leg, all over across the side of his shoes. What Lowe's seems to be, other than that, exactly these same figures. Obviously, though, there's quite a lot of more blood on this release than was on this version. Posability on this guy. Get the head all the way on there. Posability is going to be the same, so if you're familiar with that Ash, you'll be familiar with this Ash. Head ball joint will allow the figure's head to rotate all the way around. It's going to look down and up, about that high, and you can also rock it back and forth as well. The arms rotate all the way around. You do feel a little bit of friction as you rotate them because, of course, there's this part of the plastic piece that overhangs. So you're going to feel it a little bit when you try to rotate the arms. It still successfully does it, though, and it also successfully pulls out almost a 90 degree angle, not a 95, which a 90-degree angle would be a T pose. You get a little less than a T. I guess technically the capital T would be over there. Single hinge only for the elbow, but it allows at least the forearm to rotate back and forth. Hands rotate all the way around, whether you want to use these hands or the other hands. There's a little hinge back and forth there as well. Upper torso ball joint. The legs do split out. There's ball joints. Hey, hi ball joints. How you guys doing? Forward and back motion, obviously, on the legs. There's a swivel at the top of the thigh. Single hinge on the knee. Lower leg rotation. Ankle pivot up and down. Ankle rocker as well. I don't know if I had already mentioned this. If I haven't, I'll mention it now. The figure does have pegals on the bottoms of his feet. So yeah, you could use yourself a display stand. One is not included though with his figures, with either of these figures for that matter, but you could easily use a display stand from another figure company. Even though, again, like while it's still really using essentially the same ash as the first Ultimate Evil Dead ash, you know, obviously you're not probably going to want to have just a clean ash all the time. This guy should be soaked in deadite blood. So to have then this release of it, technically, again, you could use the same head sculpts. You could just swap them around. I would have loved if they had found a way to incorporate the options to swap the heads with the older ashes, but unfortunately that not being the case. Moving those all out of the way, now let's get a closer look at Cheryl. Oh man, Cheryl's a fantastic looking figure. As much as I'm a big fan of Ash, I would say probably the reason why I was more excited to get this set was for Cheryl. Not only because this is now the second time we've gotten ourselves Deadite. I mean, technically there is also Henrietta, if you really want to consider just as regular human friends. Yeah, I guess the closest thing we really had was Deadite Ed. Now, of course, this does have mouth posability. Ed also did have technically two swappable head sculpts. Ed Getley. Nice looking body overall, and you know, this figure has still held the test of time. I know this set's a little bit more expensive to try to track one down now. All the more reason, if you want to get this set, try to get this one before it starts to go for crazy, stupid money. As for, though, the features or the accessories that come included with Cheryl, she comes with her sketchbook. Now, perhaps you could say that this is foreshadowing that time is going to be running out. The actual sketchbook only does have just one featured page that is sketched. Everything else basically is just folded in. And this is all one sculpted piece, so there's no way to really flip the individual pages. You could kind of lift this up, but you can see, like, while you do this, there's technically an image underneath. I don't know if that's supposed to be an Easter egg, but when it does do that, though, it ends up popping the page out. I would imagine that's maybe a surprise for anybody that didn't already know that there was something supposed to be underneath. It kind of just looks, well, it looks obviously like the Necronomicon Ex Mortis. This was probably the only way that they could have done this. There was really no way you can kind of flip the page around. I guess you could kind of have it up like this. So if you want to have, you know, you could have it partially up, or again, just like flip the page around, tuck it back into place, and then you can kind of have the book, the sketchbook flipped up that way. I don't know if I'm going to really do that myself, but anyways, it is fun, though, the fact that NECA actually thought that out and had it as a flippable kind of front cover or with a little hidden Easter egg underneath. Anyways, the sketchbook, we'll move that off to the side. The figure does also come included with some swappable hands. As it goes right now, Cheryl only has relaxed hands right now on her forearms, but those could, though, be so easily swapped out with possessed hands. Yes, those definitely look like possessed hands. Don't let them get too close. Don't let them get too close. Those can also be swapped out with the hands that she has right now. The figure does also have a gripping hand, although there's not really much that she could, I guess she could give her the fire poker. Oh, just drop the hand. Just drop the hand. What I'd likely, though, be beelining back to is probably the pencil hand. Of course, though, as we see in the film, she does stab Linda's poor ankle with the pencil. Even though it really was an older film and a crude budget to work with, something about, though, the original Evil Dead I find was a harder thing to watch, just with the gruesome-looking sights on screen. I still love it, though. I still love it. But it certainly is a little bit more rougher, and maybe that adds to the more scary level of it, unlike maybe the more zanier aspects of Evil Dead 1. You can see that it does look like the pencil's already made penetration. Oh, I would be worrying about lead poisoning. I think lead poisoning is the least of Linda's worries. This was displayed with the figure when I first started the review. It probably will, though, continue to be displayed with the figure, and I might just end up displaying maybe the sketchbook. By the way, though, the sketchbook can technically be held in her other possessed hand, which I guess isn't so much a possessed hand, it's more of a gripping hand, but you kind of have to take the sketchbook and kind of balance it in her hand, because it's not really molded in the best ways. Like, even if you use this hand, for example, doesn't seem like it really tucks in there well enough for it to hold it securely. So you could kind of have it where it's more balanced than anything else. Even then, it's a bit of a balancing act. Finally, though, to come included with Cheryl, she comes included with two swappable head sculpts. Now, not to say that the already one that we get with out of the packaging isn't already gruesome. I mean, this is kind of more the way I think of Cheryl when I think of the film. Obviously, she's been locked in the cellar. I mean, she's got the bandage there on the top of her head. She clearly looks like something ain't right with Cheryl. Head sculpt, though, is really awesome, though, on this one. Of course, you got the hair blown off to the side here. I still think, though, like, I don't know what their licensing would be to try to acquire the Halloween 1978 film, but I feel still that would be a perfect body to be used for Annie. Annie, yeah. I mean, obviously, maybe just before she spilt the butter all over her blouse and gets stuck in the laundry room. Perfect looking body, I think, for Annie. Anyways, we're kind of getting off onto other films. Head sculpt, though, for Cheryl, there's nothing at all I really would have changed to it. Now, granted, this is one of three other looks, 3 total looks. I mean, obviously, there's 2 other alternate head sculpts you can swap her out for. There's this one. Then there's another one that's a little bit more decayed. Oh, it gets even worse. There's this one right here. And it's just obviously a case of taking the head and just popping it off her body and then replacing it with this one. Now, we did actually have other head sculpts from previous Evil Dead films. I'm just going to bring in right now Linda's decapitated head so you guys can see. Certainly, though, as you can see, time has progressed and has really helped what NECA's been doing when it comes to churning out horror figures. As we've gotten with later sculpts and newer sculpts, definitely the gruesome results are definitely there. I mean, like Linda's head was fine for the original initial release, but like what we're getting now with Cheryl, it's just absolutely frightening. Now again, that's second stage Cheryl. There's a third stage, an even more gruesome stage. There's also this version of her as well. Again, it works the exact same way. So, I mean, any one of these heads do have a socket hole on the bottom. You just pop the head that she has and then swap it out with the third and final head. Even though, to be honest with you guys, the 2 other heads, this one and the one we just finished looking at, will be eventually going back into the tray. I mean, obviously, I still will be displaying her, I think, with the defaulted head. I think it's the best of the 3. There's something, though, to be said for how much work they put into sculpting each of the alternate head portraits that she has as well. Oh, it's just hard to look at. Now, of course, when it comes to her body, should we change back the head? No, we'll keep it on for right now. Everybody's voting for keeping the gruesome head on. Okay, we'll keep the gruesome head on for Cheryl. Of course, by now, she's also losing a lot of hair on the top of her head. Yeah, I know. It's the least of her worries. Lots of blood, though, all over the front of her body. I do like that they've given her the green shirt there. I feel like in the film, it's a little bit lighter than this, but it's still pretty close. Of course, she does have also her slacks down below here. For the moment, though, I actually thought that this was maybe using the same lower legs as a 2018 Laurie Strode, as it does seem to have very similar style legs. I really should have probably brought out Laurie Strode, but I didn't want to start like contaminating this review with all these other movies. Obviously, me alone just talking about all these other films, but does kind of look like it's maybe using Laurie Strode's lower legs. I don't know if that's really, though, the case. Of course, she does have her feet down below here. Sculpted decently. Of course, there's also peg holes and bottoms of her feet as well. Cheryl's articulation. Her head is going to be, again, on that ball joint, so it's going to allow the head to rotate all the way around. Mileage, though, may vary. I find actually this head is the easiest one to rotate. When you get to like these 2 heads, because the hair is a little bit lower down to the shoulders, they don't rotate, though, as easily. Still, though, you can still pull off a full rotation. Head is still going to look still up, down, back and forth. Yeah. Upper torso is on a ball joint. Nothing changes there at all. Still the same swivel on the arm as Ash. These arms still can't quite pull off, maybe a little bit more than Ash, an almost full T-pose. Single hinge in the elbow, once again. Same rotation in the lower arms, and again, rotations in the hands. Legs split out. The beauty of these as well is just more by the design of her blouse. There's an open area here, a nice slit, that allows for legs to split. I mean, not that you really want to have Cheryl split like this and displayed on the shelf, but she can, though, pull it off. Forward and back motions on the legs. Yeah, swivel at the top of the leg, sure. Top of the hinge in the knee obviously is still there as well. Allows the lower leg to rotate. Hinge up and down. A rock back and forth. There's Cheryl. Still for me, while they give us 3 gruesome looking head sculpts, for me at least, I'm probably just going to go back to the one that we start with when we get them out of the packaging. I think, though, when it comes to wrapping up, though, the review, don't be surprised at all to find that I'm probably going to be giving her one of the 2 other head sculpts, just because, again, we started the review with a regular look for Cheryl. I just want to make sure I get her head all the way on there. Well, I'm going to start the review with her head looking like this. I can't end the review with her looking the same. Obviously, she gets to worse states in the film. She's going to look that way as well when we wrap up this review. Either way, though, I mean, if you guys have already been kind of collecting the Evil Dead film figures, obviously I already, again, mentioned the one that we're getting here with the Ash and Cheryl 2-pack, while still using the same body as the original Evil Dead Ash. Clearly, though, I mean, Ash has seen worse days ahead of him when we got with this release. There's a lot more blood on the front of his outfit. There's a lot more blood on his face as well. And, of course, we can't also forget his sibling, Cheryl. She's had better days behind her. Nothing but really dark, gloomy skies moving forward. I love this set. I really love this set quite a lot. There's a lot of good accessories that come included with both of these figures. You get yourself, of course, the cross. No Necronomicon, but, again, like we've already got, enough Necronomicon X Morrises with previous releases. I don't feel like it necessarily needed to belong with this 2-pack. Oh, siblings. Always squabbling. When it comes to Ash, I think it's safe to say we've gotten a fair share of the character over the years from NECA, and yet very few in the way of side characters. If you don't obviously count decapitated heads of girlfriends, the only other time we've gotten a character that is isn't an Ash is obviously there's Henrietta, but I mean, outside of that, we've also got ourselves Deadite Ed. He was part of the Dead by Dawn 2-pack. Outside of that, it's been like a big void of time waiting for another character to be released. And now, of course, we got ourselves Cheryl. Cheryl would be one I would want NECA to have released. And now finally having her in hand, she looks the part. She's gruesome. I mean, it's weird to kind of look at all the 3 heads that she has. And the one that we start with is the prettiest of the 3. I don't think I'd ever find myself I am describing a Deadite head as being the prettiest of the 3. She gets, though, ugly real fast. I mean, 2 other alternate head sculpts to show the degradation of her face, and poor Ash covered in blood with a chainsaw only to fend her back. This set is fantastic, though. It is available right now. I mean, I say somewhat new. I mean, the set, I think, has been around since the end of last year. You could probably find this. I found this for a little less than $100. And for that, I don't think that's that bad of a price considering the amount of accessories, not to mention 2 stellar looking figures that are included inside their boxed prison. What do you guys, though, think of this set? Have you had the chance to pick up the Ultimate Ash and Cheryl action figures from the original Evil Dead? And if you have, how do you have Cheryl displayed? Let me know what you think of them down below. If you guys did enjoy this video, you can do it a solid and throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? I hope so. This, by the way, isn't the end of NECA reviews for the rest of this week. There are, in fact, more coming your way, so I hope you're going to be coming back for those. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.